Good evening. I am going to call to order the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council. Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2026, and it is 6:30 p.m. We will be using comment cards tonight. They can be found by the exit. If you'd like to give public comment on any of our items, please fill out one of those cards and bring them right up here to Amber so that we can keep track. I'm going to ask my colleague, Councilmember Klein, presumably the future Nevada City Rancheria Tribal Liaison, to read our tribal recognition, please.
Thank you. It's been a while. We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition.
Thank you, Councilmember. I would like to ask my colleague, Vice Mayor Peterson, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Madam Deputy City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Sortland.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming is absent. Vice Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Mayor Fernandez.
I am here. Excellent. We are without Councilmember Fleming this evening. We hope he's doing well wherever he is. Council, now is the time for any agenda modifications. Would you like to make any additional changes to the agenda, pull consent items, or do we have recusals to announce? All right, I'm looking for a motion in a second to adopt the agenda.
I move we adopt the agenda.
Excellent. I have a motion from Vice Mayor Peterson and a second from Councilmember Sortland. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. All right. Hello again, everyone. We have a presentation on the agenda, and it's the presentation of Mayor Fernandez. That's me. Hi, everyone. Yay. That's cute. Thank you. Welcome. As most of you know, this is my second term serving as mayor, and I'm entering into my 7th year on this council. I'm pretty confident that I know this job differently now than the first time. And as a few of my colleagues up here can attest, it is a strange job. Some days, it means celebrating the very best of Nevada City, and for me, that looks like spending hours at the farmer's market, connecting with neighbors, cutting a ribbon to celebrate a new business, issuing proclamations and resolutions that have the power to actually shift culture in our small town, and showing up for the people and projects that make this town what it is. Other days, it means sitting with conflict. It means sometimes disappointing people and making decisions that where there is no painless option. It's a complicated job, and after 6 years on council, it has taught me that leadership is not about always knowing the right answer. It's not about always keeping everybody happy. That feels absolutely impossible. But to me, leadership means listening. And what we hear, I absolutely think should shape our judgment, but it should not replace our judgment. We also have to consider who may not be in the room, weighing the long-term consequences, and then being willing to make a decision and own it. Which brings me to the theme that will guide my year as mayor. The last time I was mayor, we didn't do themes. I think Mayor Peterson was the first in that vein, and then Mayor Klein followed suit. My theme this year is healthy ecosystems. And when I say ecosystems, most people probably think first about the natural world, our forests and watersheds. And what makes those ecosystems healthy is not that everything is or stays the same, it's that they are diverse, they are connected, and they're able to adapt. Every part affects another. A monoculture, on the other hand, might look orderly, it might feel familiar or even stable, but it is also vulnerable. Sameness is not the same as health. I believe that cities and communities aren't so different. We work much in the same way as these natural ecosystems. Housing, water, local business, transit, tourism, infrastructure, arts and culture, economic development, public safety, they are all parts of one system. They depend on one another. A decision about one inevitably affects the others. A healthy city recognizes that thriving tourism supports local businesses, and visitors need a place to stay. Those businesses also need workers, and those workers need homes they can afford. And all of that depends on water and roads and transportation and other infrastructure. A healthy city has to hold all of these needs at once. And I think as a community, we are so good at understanding this type of interdependence during wildfire and climate catastrophes. We know that it truly does take a village. It's neighbors looking out for one another, fire-wise communities mixed with public agencies and reliable infrastructure and healthy surrounding landscape. I want us to bring that same understanding to the way our whole city works, to how City Hall, local businesses, community organizations, and residents work together and affect one another. I don't have to tell you that we are living in a time where division is both cultivated and rewarded. And it sometimes can be easier to retreat into our individual corners and focus on what protects us, what benefits us, what is the personal cost to us. Only that's not community. Community doesn't require us to agree on everything. It requires us to recognize that our futures are connected. Tonight's agenda makes that real. Short-term rentals sit at the intersection of tourism, housing, local income, neighborhood stability, and outside investment. And water rates connect affordability, development, infrastructure, and the city's long-term financial health. Of course, we're going to consider these items as they come up on our agenda, but my point is that nothing in this city happens in isolation. A healthy ecosystem doesn't mean that every part gets everything it wants, right? It means paying attention to the health of the whole, and sometimes that means acknowledging trade-offs, planning beyond the next budget cycle, and refusing to solve one problem by quietly creating another. It also means that refusing change is also a decision. Stagnation is not neutral. Its costs, the costs of stagnation, can remain hidden for years before cropping up as housing scarcity, struggling businesses, aging infrastructure, higher bills, or reduced city services. That is the danger. We can mistake familiarity for stability and preservation for health. Our history, of course, matters. Preserving our history also matters. However, preservation without adaptation becomes fragility. No single generation, no single perspective or vision of Nevada City gets to define the entire community. We cannot preserve Nevada City by preventing it from living. That doesn't mean that all growth is healthy or all proposed change is right for Nevada City. It means being thoughtful about how we grow, what we preserve, and what our choices set in motion elsewhere. So as we consider the work ahead of us this year, I want us to keep asking, who benefits? Who carries the cost? Who is not represented in this room? And are we building a city that can sustain the people who live here now, as well as those we hope can live here in the future? That will be my focus as mayor, helping us see the connections, confront difficult realities, and make decisions with the whole of the community in mind. Because I believe our responsibility is not simply to address the issue directly in front of us, it is to understand what that decision sets in motion throughout the rest of the ecosystem of our town. And that is the work ahead of us. I wish you'd say it in the microphone. Healthy ecosystems, welcome. We're gonna move right along. And where are we? Public comment. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on the consent calendar and each agenda item at the time it is heard. Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda tonight?
I have two, Mayor.
Excellent. Would you like to call one up at a time?
Gordon?
For the record, I'm Gordon Gossage with Regenesis Planet. And tonight I did want to talk about housing. And we're about to engulf start out with the housing element process. And I really want you to think in terms of two words, and that's housing crisis. This is a housing crisis we're in. And there are people who often are not represented in this room. They rent, they're first-time home buyers who are getting frozen out of having a home. We are one recession away from people being thrown out of their homes and then not being able to buy a new one. And I just really hope that people can understand. You were talking about conflict. This is an opportunity to rise above conflict, to have cooperation. That's what happens in a crisis. You know, I mean, if you have a wildfire that goes through your town, you don't start fighting with each other, you figure it out, you know. And so this is a crisis, and we need to think, I know it's hard, but we need to think way beyond like a handful of single-family houses being built. We need to think of 200 units being built over a short period of time. In the United States, in order to balance housing and supply, we need 5 million homes, 5 million homes. So we have to figure out with the housing element process what that means here. And the other thing, you know, kind of looking on a national level, is that just think of where we're going now, you know, what's changed over the past 10, 20 years. I think if we can't, well, as a progressive Democrat, if we can't win in 2028, we're in trouble. But then what happens? Just think if we fail, Republicans, Democrats, we fail to solve the cost of living crisis, which is primarily a housing crisis. Who will get elected in 2032? I mean, things change. If you don't provide homes, if you don't solve people's cost of living, people get afraid. And when people are afraid, they do some very, very scary things. But here, this is the one thing you have not total control, but you have a lot of control. You can't figure out how to lower the price of gas or lower the price of food, but you can lower the price of rent and housing. And the way to do that is to increase the supply. It's not a mystery. You increase the supply faster than the demand, rents will come down, home prices will come down, or at least stabilize. So I really urge you to think, really try to get rid of the conflict by cooperation. We're all in this together. It's a crisis. We can solve it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
I have Barbara.
Hello. My name is Barbara Larson. I've lived in Nevada County for about 50 years, worked in the field of elder care. Some of you may know me because I work with people with Alzheimer's disease and related disorders and family caregivers in a variety of settings. And I am going to be talking about the short-term rental issue because of the fact that you mentioned twice about neighbors. And I'm thinking,
Barbara, I'm so sorry. I'm going to pause you for a second. Is your public comment right now directly
yes.
about short-term rental?
Yes.
That is an agendized item.
Okay, so I can't talk about it?
So we'll take that public comment during that item.
okay, I'll just come back.
Yeah. For anyone who has comments not on an agendized item, thanks, Barbara. Please stick around. All right. We are going to move right along to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. Before we take action on the consent calendar, we will hear any public comment on consent calendar items only. Do we have any public comment on consent calendar items? All right. Now I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
So moved?
I second that. Great. We have a motion by Councilmember Klein and a second by Councilmember Sortlin to approve the consent calendar. Can I get a roll call vote? Amber, please.
Councilmember Sortland,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez.
Yes. Excellent. Moving right along to business. Item number 3. Consideration of a resolution approving the appointment of city council members to committees and regional bodies for July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, and authorize the Public Arts Commission to set an annual calendar that is conducive to the commission's goals. So I will set this up. One of the duties and privileges of being mayor is that we get to appoint council members to committees, both internal and external committees. I've spoken with everybody at the table about their preferences and where they would like to serve. And what you find in the packet is the result of much of that. We will be doing committees a little different this go around. We are looking at a lot of pieces, including staff capacity. And so we best want to understand how we can serve the community and also work effectively with staff. All the external committees will remain the same. We'll be attending as Nevada City, representing Nevada City to our external committees. The internal committees will look a little different. We've kept the Fire Safe Advisory Committee, but what was formerly known as the Economic and Community Development Committee, which looked at housing and art and business, and also the Community Services Committee, which looked at parks and recreation and water and infrastructure. Those are on hold for now. We're actually looking to assign ad hoc committees as needed. Things will come to council as a whole, and if it needs special attention by committee, we will do ad hoc committee as needed. Otherwise, the appointments are as listed in the packet. I want to open this up for public comment. Does anybody have public comment on this? And then open it up to my colleagues at the table. Any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
I like it.
I like it as well. Healthy ecosystems, this evolution that we're seeing here, I feel like it really speaks to contributing to the health of our ecosystems. I'm very excited about my committees that you've appointed me to. Fire Safe Advisory Committee, Western Nevada County Climate Collaborative, Solid and Hazard Waste Committee. They're right up my alley. I'm very interested in weaving this all together in terms of my passion for sustainable environment and healthy ecosystems, and protecting our community, protecting our vulnerable community members. Being on the Fire Safe Advisory Committee is a huge responsibility. I'm so excited to be on that committee and learn from Vice Mayor Peterson. So thank you, Daniela.
Yeah, absolutely, council member. We're excited to have you inhabit this lane of sustainability, environmentalism, and zero waste.
I'm excited to see how this goes. I have the question. This has two parts. Did we also take public comment on the Public Arts Commission calendar and so forth? Are we talking about that now?
We're not talking about
Okay.
that. We're talking about committees.
Okay.
Do you have anything about committees?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Great, excellent. Also, I just wanted to note on committees that traditionally we've had two council members and the city manager represent the city at the Chamber of Commerce. After talking to leadership at the Chamber of Commerce and the city manager, we've decided that the city manager will take lead on that, and we will have one council member as representation, and that seems appropriate in a sort of liaison position, as opposed to they're not sitting as board members. So just wanted to name that. And then, Carrie, would you like to talk about the Public Arts Commission setting an annual calendar?
Yes, per our code, they're required to meet monthly unless otherwise approved by council. And in talking with our chair, Shannon, we discussed possibly not meeting as often, but doing some work in between meetings. So providing them the authority to set their calendar at their first meeting in August. This seemed the appropriate place to put that action.
Excellent, thank you. Any public comment on that? All right, any council member comment on that?
I'm excited to see what they choose.
Excellent. Adam's excited all around. Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the resolution.
I move we adopt the resolution identifying committee assignments and the calendar for the Arts Council Commission. Thank you.
I second that.
Excellent. We've got a motion and a second. Amber, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Sortland?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez?
Yes. Excellent. Moving right along, item number 4, consideration of a resolution adopting Culture Forward 2026 through 2032 Nevada County's Arts and Culture Action Plan. Carrie, would you like to get us teed up for this?
Sure. At the June 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Nevada City Public Arts Commission, they received a presentation from Nevada County Arts Council and are recommending that we approve the Culture Forward 2026 to 2032 Arts and Culture Action Plan. And with us tonight, we have Gianna Arbex, who will be presenting the information.
Thank you so much. Good evening, council members, mayor, city staff. And we do have a presentation if you wanted to share that, Amber. So I'm here to share Culture Forward 2026-2032, Nevada County's first Arts and Culture Action Plan, and to invite City Council to formally adopt it as a shared framework for collaboration. This plan is an initiative of Nevada County Arts and Culture and our 2 cultural districts. It reflects more than 18 months of community engagement and builds directly on the partnership the city already holds through the Grass Valley Nevada City Cultural District. So as you know, tonight isn't about introducing something new to all of you. It's just about recognizing Nevada City's leadership role in this work already underway across our region.
Nope, you got it.
There it is. You can't go full screen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So Culture Forward provides a countywide framework that brings our tribes, cities, towns, counties, county schools, chambers of commerce, and arts and culture organization together around shared common goals. It gives us a clear path to work collectively for greater impact, recognizing arts and culture as an essential sector to a vibrant, resilient future for our community. On this slide, you can see the Truckee Cultural District and the Grass Valley Nevada City Cultural District as part of California's inaugural districts that happened in 2017. And it highlights the important role that our region plays in this statewide network. And then and this slide shows that the 10 new California cultural districts that the state recognized last December. So we hope that now with 24 cultural districts across the state, this really creates a larger cohort, and more state legislators will support ongoing investment in our region, as a mix of state and local investment continues to be critical for the success of our collective work. One of the projects we took on as a cultural district was a survey to measure the impact of the arts on our local economy. The study demonstrated 66 million in economic activity. That's 31 million in spending by arts and culture organizations, and an additional 34 million in event-related expenditures by their audiences. The arts supported 1,359 jobs, that is 1,359 jobs, provided 39 million in personal income to residents, and generated 13 million in tax revenue to local, state, and federal governments. Pre-planning for Culture Forward was years in the making. It happened through mapping over 1,000 cultural assets in order to better understand the communities that we serve, resources needed, and gaps that we can see locally and services provided. We looked at the people who live along the highways and byways that connect our California cultural districts. Here we see that despite a combined county population of 100,000, within just an hour's drive of them is a further population of over 1.5 million. As we developed Culture Forward, we made community input a priority. We held listening sessions and focus groups, gathered hundreds of responses through a bilingual community survey, and interviewed leaders from across sectors. We also reviewed plans from throughout the region to identify shared priorities and build on the work already underway. We looked at the Nevada City's general plan, Nevada County Office of Education, Arts Education Plan, the county's Economic Development Action Plan, and its Recreation and Resiliency Master Plan. We also looked at Visit California's tourism plan, Visit Truckee Tahoe's strategic plan, and their new brand position, Mountain Heart, Small Town Soul, Sierra Business Council's economic development strategy, and our unincorporated area plans for South County, Loma Rica Industrial, North San Juan, Penn Valley, and Soda Springs. As we know, these are very much part of our community, although they're not incorporated, but we really wanted to include those regions. For Culture Forward, all this discovery and community engagement resulted in the identification of 12 connected priorities, centered on supporting artists and creative career pathways, strengthening education and infrastructure, improving funding and partnerships, balancing tourism with local life and local identity, and positioning arts and culture as essential to Nevada County's identity, economy, and long-term resilience. Culture Forward contains overarching goals that activate cultural life, support learning and creative careers at every stage, strengthen the infrastructure and partnerships that make the arts possible, and steward our cultural heritage and our natural environments for future generation. These goals are reflected by 3 very specific plans for career pathway development and jobs retention in the arts, a regional marketing plan for the arts, and a funding plan that both ensures the implementation of Culture Forward and sets a precedence for arts funding more broadly. Culture Forward relies on shared leadership across sectors with clear roles for local government, community partners, cultural organizations, and Nevada County Arts and Culture, formerly Nevada County Arts Council, to ensure accountability and momentum. The work unfolds in practical phases, allowing us to align resources, test ideas, and scale what works. Rather than trying to do everything at once, ultimately, Culture Forward will succeed through collaboration, stewarding culture as civic infrastructure and advancing outcomes that support community well-being, economic resilience, and a strong sense of place. And as we begin implementing Culture Forward, already this year, we've taken some important first steps, including launching our 8-week Artist Accelerator program, which served 17 emerging and established artists, helping them strengthen their business, increasing their income, paying off debt, and exploring new revenue streams. We've also published the 3rd issue of Muse, celebrating the people, places, and stories that make Nevada County unique. We featured in Muse more than 470 local businesses and a free directory of over 260 artists. And Muse highlights the creativity and people that shape our cultural economy and define our downtowns and visitor destinations. We also continue with our youth mentorship and support for college scholarship applications, state-level arts advocacy in advance of the governor's budget release, which unfortunately, as you know, did not include any funding for the cultural districts, and delivery of content promoting hundreds of local events presented by our arts organizations and creative businesses. Finally, we're very grateful that for the first time in its history, our Nevada County Board of Supervisors have recognized arts alongside tourism as the 2026-27 objective. As we look towards the future, Culture Forward gives Nevada City a way to turn its long-standing cultural identity into shared action. And the council can be one of the first civic bodies to help carry that work forward, followed by the adoption from the Grass Valley City Council that happened in back in May or April. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm open to questions, should there be any from the council.
Thank you so much, Gianna. We're going to go to the public before we come back to the table. Are there any public comments on this item?
I'm shocked.
But is she for or
Hello, welcome back.
Or again.
Hello, I'm Eliza, Executive Director at Nevada County Arts and Culture. Lovely job, Gianna. Lovely to be back. Dropped the husband off in London and just got on a plane back. It is a critical time in the arts, as we know, across the nation, and particularly here in California, where we're already underfunded. So this makes your adoption this evening, which we hope will move forward, all the more symbolic and supportive of our existing partnership. And it also provides you with a North Star for your work with the arts. Like, we've done this work together, let's just continue it. So thank you so much. And again, great job.
Thank you, Eliza. Any other public comment on this item? All right, I'm going to bring it back to the table. Vice Mayor, you seem ready to speak.
Always.
Always.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see the county following Nevada City's lead in identifying the arts as critical to our economy and to the values that we hold as a community. I was having a conversation recently with someone about what creativity really means. And, if there are sacred gifts in this world, it is creativity that drives those things, the ability to create with our hands and our minds.
Can y'all hear my colleague?
Eat the mic. Can you hear that? A little bit.
Can we get a little volume in the room, please?
So, but creativity is so valuable, and we see that everywhere in our community. Arts has been so critical to Nevada City. I've been coming around and been around and stayed and gone and stayed and gone, but art has always been here. Art is from the beginning, and art is such a part of who we are. Under Mayor Fernandez's guidance in her first round as mayor, we formed the Arts Commission, which was a really critical point, given that we had identified it as an important part of economic development, an important part of our strategic plan. Well, dang, let's do something about it. So I think we've aligned ourselves with it, certainly having you folks downtown and visiting with us all the time, and all the richness of the culture, creativity, and arts in Nevada City. I couldn't be happier to sign on to this. It's a wonderful plan. I like how, sometimes these big plans, it's a big plan, but you live into those plans and you learn from those plans as you implement and you flex and you adapt. And this is really a great document, a great plan, and it's going to move us all forward into those really important places of art appreciation and creativity.
Thank you, Gary.
Gianna, I just want to say, knowing how robust the process was to come up with this plan and everything in it, the amount of engagement you undertook, I was constantly at these listening sessions, talking sessions, all over. I went all over Western County, but I know you covered the whole county, and the amount of work that went into it, the amount of thought that's just there on the page, it's outstanding. And I know that you know as well as anyone else that right now you're facing artists, and there are artists behind you in this room as well, because this is Nevada City, and I just appreciate you putting so much respect towards the work of artists and all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And definitely, we have to give credit to Eliza really leading this charge. And as we transition, she's thankfully still with us, and she's here for 5 more weeks as we bring in a new executive director. And this plan will seriously give a roadmap to that new leadership, and we'll continue to stand behind it. So she really is leaving us in a really good position and a roadmap to the future for arts and culture in Nevada County.
Awesome. It's good to hear.
Thank you, Gianna. Thank you, Eliza, for your excellent hard work and dedication to moving art and culture forward and providing this wonderful strategic plan that we can get behind wholeheartedly. We've been talking about collaboration and shared action tonight, and what brings community together better than art and culture and our shared love of expressing ourselves, being artists, living here in community together. So thank you for encouraging that. Thank you for taking the time to learn how to serve our community and looking at our community as a whole beyond our boundary to Grass Valley and Truckee. We're such a small community here in Nevada City that we have to join with our neighbors and be stronger together. So thank you for encouraging that.
Thank you, colleagues, for your comments. Thank you, Gianna, for the presentation. Thank you, Eliza, for all of your work. As an artist and a policymaker, an artist who has been multiple year grant-funded work in partnership with the Arts Council, I'm grateful for your presence in this community. You've established the impact of arts in this county. And I appreciate this presentation, and it reads a little high-level theoretical. Like, I want to know what you want from us. Like, we know that arts has an impact in this community, and I hear words like, how do we carry that work forward? How do we carry that work forward? Sure, we can adopt this resolution tonight, and like, I want to understand better how the city can directly support arts, both financially and otherwise in this community, and I would love for you to ask us the exact ways that you need us to do that, because we know that arts already has an impact in this community. And so thank you for your work, and I look forward to developing what that means to truly support arts in our community going forward. Anything else, Gianna, you'd like to add?
Thank you so much, Daniela. Yeah, I think initially this is what we're asking is for our cities to adopt it. Truckee also has adopted the plan. We're now headed to the county to adopt it. And, you know, as the first year of the plan, we're still in this very much phase of socializing, but funding is a critical component to implement this plan. There's a lot more than we can be doing aside from funding, but that is definitely a conversation. As you know, 2017 was when we were designated cultural districts, and that took 5 years of doing work under no state funding whatsoever. In 2023, when we got redesignated, we had 3 years, right? And we fought really hard this year for funding to get included in the governor's budget, which unfortunately didn't. So we also want to call upon all of you to advocate too, in the not just locally, but in the state level, and I know you do, Daniela, but let's please keep this conversation going and see how much else can the city be involved and really buy into this work.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of our ecosystem,
Yeah.
arts and culture. And I'm sorry that our governor wasn't able to fund that initiative, but he balanced the budget by cutting a lot of important things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to accept the recommendation from the Public Arts Council and adopt the resolution recognizing Culture Forward 2026 through 2032 Nevada County Arts and Culture Action Plan as presented by Nevada County Arts Council, formerly and currently Nevada County Arts and Culture.
So moved.
I second that.
Great. I have a motion by Councilmember Klein, a second by Councilmember Sortlin. Can I get a roll call, please, Amber?
Yeah, Councilmember Sortland,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson,
Absolutely.
Mayor Fernandez.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much. Moving right along. Oh, a photo. Let's get a photo. Can we please do a group photo for the arts?
I hope it's creative.
Oh, you got it? Yeah. Okay.
Everybody say Arts and Council. Culture forward. Culture forward. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're ready. We're on to our main course. Item number 5, consider calling a special election for November 3rd, 2026, and placing an updated short-term rental ordinance on the ballot. The presentation will be by our city manager and planning director, Jessica Hankins.
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that the community has been working toward for several years. So I think we'll just turn it right over to Planning Director Jessica, who has helped guide us through this. We also have Mark Mindell, who's an attorney associated with Jones Mayer, on the call as well if there's any additional questions, but we're in good hands with Jessica.
We always are.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Okay, I think I'll get right to it. All right, a little bit of background first on this. The existing ordinance.
I'm so sorry, I'm going to pause you for a
Go ahead.
second. We're just going to get the visual set up for just a moment.
Okay.
Oh, that's fun. Mercury's supposed to be direct today. No astrology folks in the audience?
Bottom right of the screen has a, there you go.
Hey, Councilmember Klein. All right, thanks, y'all.
Okay. All right, so we're on just the background of this first. We have an existing short-term rental ordinance in place right now. This ordinance was brought forth by a citizen initiative in 2015 and adopted by the council that year. It became effective in 2016. So this existing ordinance we have now does not require a host to be on site. Approximately 75% of our permitted short-term rentals right now are currently whole home rentals, and it allows 2 short-term rentals on a given property. Okay. Okay, thanks. All right, so since then, since it was first adopted, obviously the short-term rental situation in the city has evolved. To the point where in 2023, the city began to have discussions about how short-term rentals affect neighborhoods, housing availability, tourism, and local businesses. The community and the city began to hold a series of meetings. You can see on this slide from 2023 to date, we've had 12 separate meetings, including 2 community meetings, all of which were open to the public. So we have, we've developed an ordinance over that time. Obviously, there's been staff turnover as well, but the staff has continued that work that began in 2023. What the city is seeking to do with the proposed ordinance is to find a better balance that can affect all of these different factors that would include both preserving neighborhood character and protecting long-term housing opportunities, as well as supporting tourism and local businesses, and establishing clear and more consistent operating standards and improving safety and accountability for guests and operators. So really just trying to strike a balance here among all of these competing needs. Because the current ordinance was initiated by voters, any changes have to be approved by voters, which is why this is a resolution to bring this to ballot. Okay, so I have now some slides that are going to show you a comparison of the existing ordinance and the proposed ordinance. So these rows line up here. The existing ordinance is on the left side, proposed on the right side. Under the existing ordinance allows, or recognizes rather, only one permit type. That all short-term rentals are equal and the same, whether the host is on the site or not. The new ordinance would create 2 permit types, a hosted permit where the owner lives on site and a whole home permit. That would include both primary units and accessory units. Under the existing ordinance, the owner or manager must live in the county somewhere. Under the proposed ordinance, there must be a local contact person within 15 miles. The existing ordinance does not contain a cap on the number of short-term rentals. The proposed ordinance doesn't have a cap on hosted short-term rentals, but does contain a cap on whole home rentals, and that is a 2% of the existing housing inventory. That would be the cap on whole home primary units, and a 1% cap on whole home accessory dwelling units used as short-term rentals. The existing ordinance also contains a clause that says that there has to be another use of the property. This has been really just challenging administratively to determine what that means, how long that other use needs to occur on the property. So it's resulted in a number of whole home rentals where somebody can say, well, I go in there for 2 hours of the year or 2 weeks out of the year. We don't know what that limit needs to be. So under the new ordinance, that clause has been removed. That'll help facilitate compliance and administration of the ordinance. The current ordinance also indicates that conduct guidelines need to be presented to renters. The new ordinance contains operational standards that are required to be posted directly on the interior right next to the front door. The existing ordinance does not specify whether the permit runs with the owner or the property. The new ordinance does clarify that it runs with the owner. It can't be transferred to new owners. The existing ordinance does not contain any distance requirements from other short-term rentals, which has resulted in some clustering of short-term rentals in certain neighborhoods. The new ordinance does contain a 300-foot distance requirements for new short-term rentals. The existing ordinance allows 2 short-term rentals per property. The new one would only allow 1 short-term rental per property, with the exception of hosted, where you could have 2 bedrooms rented separately in the house. Under the existing ordinance, there are no operational standards. The new ordinance does contain operational standards, and these include items such as noise levels, trash collection, smoke alarms, fire extinguishers, visible addressing, advertisement requirements. So in the Airbnb ad, for example, the owner would have to state the occupancy level and the number of vehicles allowed. The new ordinance also would not allow exterior signs advertising it as a short-term rental, would require fire inspections, have outdoor fire restrictions, and grill and barbecue restrictions. Okay. All right. Under the existing ordinance, events are allowed if there's no direct or indirect compensation involved. The new ordinance specifies no special events allowed. Number of vehicles remains the same. Parking location is not specified in the existing ordinance, which has made enforcement of parking difficult for the city. The new ordinance specifies that the location must be on site unless it occurs on an older property that doesn't have parking on site, since we have a number of historic properties that don't have that, in which case they have to have a city-approved off-site parking plan. The existing ordinance, finally, does not contain any enforcement or penalties if the ordinance is not complied with, whereas the new one contains very specific provisions about suspension and revocation of the permit if the application contains false or misleading information, if the operator violates operational standards, or if more than 3 citations have been issued, including to guests. Oops. One too far. Okay, so just to kind of summarize again what the new ordinance provides. It divides up short-term rental permits into hosted, which is where the owner lives on the property, and whole home, which is where the whole dwelling unit, whether it's a primary or secondary, is rented. Under hosted, there's no citywide cap. The permits would be available year-round, and 1 or 2 bedrooms could be rented in the residence or a guest house on the same property, which is not considered an ADU because it doesn't have a kitchen. For whole home rentals, they would be subject to a 2% citywide permit cap on primary dwelling units and a 1% cap on ADUs. And future permits would become available only when capacity exists. They also have different application requirements, and they would only basically become available for application if there was capacity. So how would the cap change the actual number of short-term rentals? On the left-hand side, you see the existing ordinance today, and on the right, the proposed ordinance. So today, we have about, and I want to just say a caveat, this is about because we don't know that this number will be the same at the end of the year since we have renewals still coming up. But the number estimated today is 71. So we have 71 total short-term rental permits today. That number could just increase indefinitely under the existing ordinance. Under that, we have 53 whole home rentals and 18 hosted rentals. And 35 of the whole home rentals are primary and 18 are ADUs. Under the proposed ordinance, the number of whole home rentals you can see would drop by about 10, from 53 whole home to 43 whole home. The number of primary units would drop by about 6, and the ADUs by about 4. Anybody who has an existing permit under this new ordinance would be allowed to convert that permit and continue to operate indefinitely if they were to remain in compliance and reapply every year. So the permit level would only drop by attrition if they were not to renew their permit or they had compliance issues. So now I just wanted to turn to enforcement of this because this has been a big topic. Under the current ordinance, enforcement is challenging, like I mentioned. Number one, because there are no operational standards to enforce other than whether you have a permit or not. But this new ordinance would obviously correct that. Number two is because the software that we had been using lacked compliance capabilities. But we have, as I mentioned before, recently enhanced our permitting software with Rentalscape, and that will provide the data that we need for compliance efforts. So this slide just shows some of the things that Rentalscape will do for us. They're in the process, actually, we have the contract in place now. They're in the process of building this out at the moment, and it should be in place within the next 2 months or so. So what they do is they scan over 15 million listings across 10,000 plus rental websites every day. They match the listing to a precise property address and parcel number. They also provide some real benefits to residents who have short-term rental permits or who want a short-term rental permit. And then there's a self-service portal. You can make your tax payments through the portal, and then it assists staff as well because it just sort of streamlines all of that intake process through this portal. And then with all of this data, this slide just kind of shows some of the data. It's a little bit hard to read, but provides kind of an example of the types of data that we can see on Rentalscape. It will help us with this data to know which properties are in compliance, when are they renting out, when are they not, when we're seeing more transient occupancy tax coming in because we know it's getting rented, things like that. And then finally, with the software and with this additional data that we have, and we can actually start developing an enforcement program. So this slide shows some of the enforcement options available to the city. Number one is revoking or suspending the permit, which is provided in the proposed ordinance. Number two is administrative citations, which is in our existing municipal code. We can do this. And that contains the ability to accrue financial penalties daily. Number three is criminal charges, which is a misdemeanor or infraction. That's provided also in our municipal code. Number four is a civil nuisance action dependent on circumstances, also in our municipal code. And number five is a state business and professions code that would allow us to file an unfair business practices complaint if there's a pattern of maintaining unpermitted short-term rentals. So in summary, if the ordinance is not passed, the existing ordinance will continue. Approval of the ordinance would result also in council's ability to make changes in the future. The current And these next couple of bullets here actually give you a few more numbers. The current whole home primary unit short-term rentals right now are about 2.4% of the existing housing stock. So you can see what the difference is. The ordinance provides for 2%, so 2.4 to 2%. And for ADUs, currently it's about 1.2% of existing housing stock. That would be reduced to 1%. We would continue to allow unlimited hosted short-term rentals. The ordinance would also provide more protections for neighbors and more enforcement clarity. The staff is recommending that the council adopt a resolution calling for a special municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, to authorize members of City Council to file an argument and rebuttal in support of the ballot measure on behalf of council. I think that should say authorize members of the city staff to file an argument and rebuttal on behalf of council. Okay. Number 3, authorize the city manager or designee to take all appropriate and necessary actions to carry out the purpose and intent of the resolution. That concludes my presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jessica, for summing up 3 years. That was so reasonable. Thank you. Just a note about how this will go. We'll take public comment, and then we'll come back to the council. I know, Barbara, we've got you, and we've got some other cards. And if you haven't filled out a card and you want to give public comment, that's okay too. We'll call you up afterwards. Barbara, come on up.
I really appreciate the clarification, especially around, accountability and oversight. As I said before, I've lived in the county for about 50 years, working in the field of elder care. And when you talk about arts and creativity, you can think about that as well, in the medical field and in the field that I was in. I spent a lot of time in the county, doing a lot of trainings for healthcare professionals in a variety of settings and agencies. And you mentioned earlier, Daniela, about your neighbor and how getting to know your neighbors. It's very hard to get to know a neighbor who is, renting and maybe renting for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, or that kind of. And how are they involved in the community? I mean, are they going to volunteer in the community? Are they going to be in a nonprofit, on the board of directors? Are they going to be coming to these meetings? Are they going to be coming to the Board of Supervisors? How invested are they going to be in the community? And that's my number one issue on some level, is that I'd say probably a quarter or maybe more than that of the referrals that I got from the nonprofit that I worked for 20 years here, Del Oro Caregiver Resource Center, and also later on in my own private practice, were from neighbors. Neighbors, people that knew each other and were worried about their neighbor. Same thing with my husband, William Larson. I had a contract for many years with the Veterans Administration, and he worked with post-traumatic stress disorder veterans. I would say the same thing with him, that many of the referrals came from neighbors, especially veterans that were afraid to come out. And Michaela, not too long ago, I referred somebody to you, right? A neighbor. And so I just want to take time to just say, maybe, I'm not saying don't have, I'm saying how many? What's the right amount? And how does it affect our community at large? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Shasta?
I wrote it down because I thought I would forget things. I'm one of those people that is a part-time resident of Nevada County and involved in the community. So let me just read this because I'll forget things. So my wife and I bought our home on 130 Boulder Street in 2019. It was the one with no parking. You'll recognize it. Everybody in this county has looked at it and told me, oh, the one with no parking. And we invested a great deal of money and care in restoring it because it's our home. Although I am a part-time resident, I have my roots here. My family lives here. My sister and my mom live in Penn Valley. I cared for my older sister who lived in Grass Valley during her cancer. And I'm a member of Briar Patch, the Curious Forge. I'm an Emerald level donor at Circle. I've done many river cleanups, so I am involved in our community.
And I bring the Angie that brings their niece and nephew to Pioneer Park for swim lessons. I participate in this community because I love it and because I'm a part of it. That being said, renting our home is a way that helps us offset some of our costs. This property will never be a long-term rental so long as I own it. So prohibiting short-term rental use will not return it to the housing supply. It will simply just sit empty. I am aware of nearby properties operating multiple short-term rental units where the owners do not reside. They may be properly permitted, but this raises the fundamental question, policy question, why should an established investor-operated rental be protected while long-term homeowners who personally use and care for their homes have no viable path to a permit under the cap when we're reducing the numbers? I understand and support the ordinance intent to protect housing and neighbors, but as written, it sweeps homeowners like me into the same category as commercial investors, even though our circumstances and impacts are fundamentally different. I'm willing to meet reasonable requirements for safety, taxes, parking, local management, all of the safeguards. My specific request is that the ordinance include a viable whole home permitting pathway for established part-time residents who personally use and maintain their Nevada City homes. Please do not create a system that effectively excludes homeowners like us simply because we are not full-time residents or were unable to secure a permit under the previous process.
Thank you, Shasta.
Kathy Field.
Good evening. I live at 630 East Broad Street. It's a charming house and in a lovely neighborhood. We're truly grateful to be living here. However, about a year ago, a little more than that, our neighbors moved to another country they were going to be gone a year. And they decided to do a unhosted short-term rental. And we didn't think anything of it. We just wished them well and thought, this is a great adventure for their family. What a great opportunity. And then the reality of living next door to an unhosted hotel basically set in. At first, it didn't bother us much. People came and went, and there weren't really any problems. But often people arrive at 10:30 at night, and they're opening and closing car doors. It's amazing how many times they open and close their car doors. They're talking. Unfortunately, our bedroom is maybe 25 feet away from this. So it disturbs us. The people coming and going, you have no idea who they are. Yes, we can complain to the police. We can call the property manager. We don't like having to do that. Neighbors don't like all the cars that are parked out. They often have guests, and you know, your neighbors have guests. They have parties. They have loud parties periodically, but your neighbors aren't doing this every week. What we didn't expect is that this house was going to be rented almost every weekend, sometimes quick turnarounds where it would be rented out during the week also. So after a while, it's wearing. And I appreciate the way the council is tightening up all the requirements. Enforcement will be a lot better, but it's still left up to the neighbors to let somebody know there's an issue. We never would have moved next to a hotel. We didn't ask for the situation, but we have to deal with it. everybody I've talked to, except for one person, who lives by these unhosted short-term rentals, finds them quite annoying and feels they don't have a place in the neighborhood, which is why I personally think they're inappropriate for the neighborhoods and would like to see them phased out. But anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sally Harris.
Hi, Sally.
Hi. I'm glad to be here and not up there tonight.
Did your time.
I'm Sally Harris, and I live on Spring Street. As some of you already know, there are 4 whole house short-term rentals within 1 block of me. So I have personal experience with the erosion to a neighborhood caused by the revolving door of neighbors. A standout was an inebriated woman going door to door complaining that there was no wine opener in her Airbnb house and could she borrow one? She was quite indignant. Then there's the house 2 doors down with a swimming pool. Almost every summer weekend, there are new neighbors wanting to party around the pool. And what is a party without music? Resident neighbors do not have big pool parties every weekend. The key reasons many cities have begun to control or ban the whole house short-term rentals are the erosion of neighborhoods, dilution of sense of community, and the impact they have on the quality and character of neighborhoods. Additionally, they reduce the housing stock available to local residents. In the case of the 4 near me, all were owner or long-term renter occupied when I moved to Spring Street 26 years ago. As staff mentioned earlier, currently there are 53 whole house short-term rentals in Nevada City. You know, I can't see the clock. Thank you. Personally, I would like to see that head to 0. There's just too many. And the percentage in the draft ordinance only takes the number down to 43. So we go from 53 to 43. That's not going to have a significant impact on our quality of life as we're experiencing things now. It is our fault that these 53 investment houses exist because it's our town, it was voted in, here they are. So perhaps we allow those to stay instead of telling them they have to be out in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But then forget about the caps and simply say no new ones. No new non-hosted short-term rental permits will be granted, period. And then over time, the 53 would gradually approach 0 without negatively impacting anyone's investment. So you're protecting the people that are dependent on this and have their unique situations. TOT on short-term rentals should not be looked at as a growing revenue source for Nevada City. I think in the years I've been here, we've raised over $15 million by voting on Measure S and the other 3 measures here. This is a pittance compared to that. We vote for these things because we love our town, we want the budget balance, we want to help. But please, please protect the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Leo.
Good evening. My name is Lil Charnay, 626 Zion Street. I'm a recovering having an Airbnb neighbor. It's been 675 days since I've been Airbnb neighbor free. Thank you. Let's see, I had a prepared remarks I sent to you all earlier where it says I'm here tonight because I believe the process you're using is just as important as the policy itself. And the process, which I don't think people behind me really realize what's happening here. This is an initiative process, which if you look at Ballotpedia, this is how you go through the initiative process. It's not an easy thing. And what happens is, that was a very good presentation, but it shows how complicated it is. and what you put before the voters. Not a semicolon will be able to be changed unless you do this paperwork again. So I would proffer two things. First, I believe there will be on the ballot a line where it says the voters will rescind the previous initiative. So with that, you could add a little caveat. You will rescind it, and it will be in effect until the city council comes up with a replacement, and they can, at their discretion, through the planning process. Okay. Or what you could do is you could add a line at the end where, and initiatives can do this, initiatives are frozen. You can't change it without another initiative. But what you can do is you could add one more line, is that the city council, if this initiative is approved, the city council at its discretion through the normal planning process can amend, alter, edit, delete any and all portions through that process, which means that any of those slight items that people are sort of, well, could you do this, could you do that? You can't do any of that with the initiative. But if you would put that one line in, you could do that. I'm not concerned about all the details tonight. That's, and to me, that's unimportant. To me, it's the process, and that is the key. And that is why I think, I was trying to find iniquitous, I don't think that was the word. Actually, I was going with nefarious, because I really think if the process is an initiative to replace the other initiative, that's not right. You have to take the burden. I know it shields you, which is good politically, but I think it would behoove Nevada City to be able to fine-tune this. And so it'll throw you back in your plate, but I think that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo.
Oh, sorry for the trash.
Charles?
Good evening, and thank you guys for your time. Really appreciate it. As many of you know, I design high-functioning neighborhoods for a living. Before I designed the first one in Davis, California in 1990, I interviewed 8 anthropologists and asked them the simple question, what makes a great neighborhood? What makes a viable neighborhood? And the first one is somebody actually lives in the house. That's number one. There's a household in the house. And number two is that there's somebody next door that you can rely on when times are, when somebody sends somebody to notice that they need you. Without a neighbor, there's a gap, and there's no one to watch your kids in an emergency, bring the mail in when you're on vacation, lend you tools, notice that you need help. And every mom with a 6-year-old wants a mom with a 6-year-old or similar living next door. That is the beginning building block of a viable neighborhood. Or a senior who might watch the child an hour while the parent runs to the store. In return, that parent might pick up groceries. And it's all about probability. With an empty house or an STR, that probability is 0 that you will have that neighbor. Where somebody actually lives there, that possibility exists. That's how towns work. Healthy neighborhoods are built from relationships between neighbors, and healthy neighborhoods build healthy towns. Nevada City Co-Housing is a purpose-built, high-functioning neighborhood. People know each other, care about each other, and rely on each other. They support one another. That's why they entirely prohibit Airbnbs, because that was the main idea when they built that project. We're going to have a functioning neighborhood, and they were really clear about that. And every co-housing I've designed, which is about 55 now across the country, they all prohibit any Airbnbs. We've seen what happens when those relationships disappear. Downeyville's population has dramatically, over the last 20 years, gone from 325, my whole youth, it was 325 people. Now it's down to 240. And every time I go to Downeyville, which I probably will this weekend, residents complain about how that town feels gutted now. It's empty. Carmel is best known for out-banning Airbnbs because they feel that they want their town to be living, not a facade. Our responsibility to make neighborhoods stronger, not weaker. Right now, 53 whole house short-term rentals is simply too many. I would suggest a gradual replacement program, say sunsetting 5 per year and allowing 2 new ones to build anew. The difference is the presence of a resident who remains part of the neighborhood. Housing should first serve the people who work here, volunteer here, and want to build their lives here. That would be rental units, etc. Some argue that reducing short-term rentals would hurt the local economy. I don't believe that's true. I know that so many local neighbors who eat out here. Really?
Yes, thank you, Chuck.
Okay. Well, here's the rest of the story. Amber, would you get one?
We've seen it, thank you.
No, this is a new one.
Oh, it's a new one. It sounded exactly the same. Thank you.
It's brand new.
Dawn Joy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Don Joy. I live at 129 Orchard Street in Nevada City. I had a whole bunch of stuff written down here to talk about. You answered most of my questions. I think the new ordinance is better than the old ordinance overall, but I think it's going to need some tweaking. For my purposes, I think ADUs and whole houses ought to be the same thing. It has a kitchen, it's a rentable unit, and local residents could use that space for a local rent. Our ultimate goal should be to completely eliminate whole house short-term rentals from R1 residential zones in Nevada City. R1 zoning aims to maintain low-density neighborhoods, restricts commercial and multifamily developments like hotels, triplexes, and so forth. Whole house short-term rentals represent a commercial activity requiring a valid business license to operate in Nevada City, and they should be separated from our residential neighborhoods. There are currently over 50 cities in the state of California that have all-out bans on whole house short-term rentals, and there's an additional 25 where heavy restrictions apply. Nevada City seems to be moving in the opposite direction. A couple of comments. I completely agree with what Sally Harris had to say. My friends Mike and Kathy Field called the person in charge of their rental next door to complain about noise and stuff. The gentleman told them to close their windows and turn their air conditioner on to drown out the noise. The owner was not available. I think it's important that the owners of these properties, not a manager, but the owners, be within a 15 or 20 mile radius for contact. And I have several questions that you probably can answer to me directly, but we have these ordinances and measures and things that you specify. Who keeps track of this stuff? To whom do we report these problems? Is it a complaint-driven thing only where you issue these variable punishments that you showed on the board? One strong thing about the measure is that the council can modify it in the future. I love that part. That was good thinking. I think that's it for me. Again, good job. I appreciate your presentation, and let's see what happens. Thank you for your time.
Jordan Fisher.
Mayor Fernandez and Vice Mayor Peterson, members of the City Council. My name is Jordan Fisher Smith, and I live at 315 Gethsemane Street. That is my second place in Nevada City. In 1986, I bought my first with an FHA assumable loan, which was something you didn't have to qualify for. You just signed on as the next mortgager. Before that, I had been a renter, like many young people, working people. And my landlords were people like the U.S. Forest Service, the National Park Service, private owners of houses. And I did what, up until recently, when we had a corporation in Texas called VRBO, and a corporation in San Francisco called Airbnb. When an owner wasn't occupying their house, they put them up for rent. And people like me, young people, moved into them, often with roommates. I have 3 friends right now who are looking for a place to live together. They're going to be roommates here in Nevada City. 2 of the 3 are working for major institutions, what passes for major institutions here in Nevada City, have offices here in town. One of them works remotely. They're working people. And they count on us to have a place for them to be. However, they're in competition now with families from Orange County and Iowa and Massachusetts in a way that really wasn't present until a few years ago. We've gotten really used to things happening really fast. And it's easy to forget that just a few years ago, if you were a young working person and you needed a place to live and you weren't yet a homeowner, like I became at 31, you rented a house that the owner wasn't living in. And it's ludicrous right now, I think, to talk about affordable housing without really considering what the sequestration of these addresses to become little hotels is doing to our stock of available rental housing for people who work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jordan.
Mary Ann?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm a resident in Nevada County, not Nevada City, but I also write for the Union newspaper, and I know you can't, I wonder if this is a final draft that you're proposing tonight, because I recognize that Jessica mentioned if passed, the council could make changes at any time. And in some form, this was an initiative put forward by voters, and in some respects, that's taking power away from voters. So I just wanted to clarify if that was true and make sure people are aware of that small detail. Like the gentleman, Mr. Joy, mentioned, you know, maybe we're going to move for an all-out ban in the future. And some individuals tonight mentioned this is part of their income. So I respect all of you and the balance that you've always taken on every issue, but I just want to say that as an individual in this county, not necessarily representing the Union newspaper in any way, I just wonder that if there's a possibility that there's more drafting to be done before this initiative is passed. Or maybe someone could respond to that if tonight is the final. And that's my comment. Thank you for hearing it.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Any other public comment on this item? All right. Thank you all so much for your public comment. For you, Lori, I'll give you 3 minutes. That's okay.
I wanted to speak, but I want to bring up a couple things that haven't been brought up. Lori Overholser, 310 Nevada Street. You know, since the host ordinance was adopted, the STRs have grown from 21 units that year to 53. So, you know, we've really seen an increase, and that 53 is a loss of 53 houses. And I just don't think that's okay. It's 53 less neighbors, 53 less places for people to live. And I just think we need them back. We need them back to meet our RHNA numbers. This is not the time to be allowing the number to stay where it is. It needs to go down, and it should go down rapidly. I won't go over the experience I had, but we had one behind us for a couple of summers, and it was pretty awful. And the regulations wouldn't have helped. It was just people there all the time. They were following the rules, but it was all just didn't feel like part of the neighborhood. I hope that you will not become dependent on these whole house STRs as a revenue source. It's just not good for the city. We are not just a tourist town. So let's not get hooked on it. A couple of other just sort of technical points. I am concerned about why the Planning Commission didn't review this and why there hasn't been any SEQA review on the ordinance. I don't think an initial environmental study has been conducted. And, you know, there are potential physical impacts to listing these 40 to 50, to losing these 40 to 50 homes. because you basically need to replace them with other homes for people to live in to meet our RHNA numbers, so our growth numbers go up. And so, you know, there is a potential environmental impact there that needs to be addressed before you send this ordinance onto the ballot. I would like to know if any of the council members do own short-term rentals, because that would, I think, I think you would have to recuse yourself, because it's a conflict of, certainly a perception of a conflict of interest on this issue. So that's pretty much it. I just hope you will follow the lead of, I thought it was only 30 cities, but there are apparently 50 cities that have pretty much completely banned the whole house vacation rentals, and some of them are very similar to us: Calistoga, Sonoma, Healdsburg, places like that, and they have completely phased them out, and I hope you'll do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
I'd like to say something. Barbara DeBrawl over on Drummond Street. You know, we wouldn't be in this pickle had it not been years ago when that measure was passed to end B&Bs. I mean, bed and breakfast, in other words. And so maybe when we re-look at this, we could reinstate that as well. When we had bed and breakfast here, the places were lovely. Rand Mears, Ted Kendall's house, the Emma Nevada house, these places were absolutely pristine. They were quiet. And they're sort of like the hosted short-term rentals. So I'd like you to reconsider that as well, taking a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Lori, did you do that initiative? Get rid of the B&Bs?
What?
Did you do that initiative?
Which one?
The B&Bs?
Oh, the B&B one was taken off. Oh, no, let's see.
Oh, I'm good, thank you. Okay. So we are going to come to the council. Thank you again for your public comment. Councilmember Klein, you and I worked closely on this for nearly 3 years. Would you like to, I'd like to invite you to get us started on this discussion and also give us some context and background and anything else you think is important to say.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor and I started this process, as you've heard, well over a year ago, 2 city managers ago, because we saw what you're all seeing. The current ordinance, without a cap on the number of whole house rentals, short-term rentals, isn't working for our community. We held many, many public meetings where people on all sides of this issue came and expressed their concerns and their hopes. We heard about good hosts, and we heard a lot about bad hosts and what bad hosts and bad guests are doing to the sleeping schedules of their neighbors. We heard about the impacts of too many STRs in one neighborhood, too close together. We heard about special cases of longtime residents who rent their place when they're out of town to make ends meet, but who are mostly here. All of that went into our work and the work of our incredible staff in creating this ordinance. We wanted to make sure this addressed the major and minor problems you're seeing and have told us about. The choice now is between this or the status quo, and that's what you'll be voting on in November. Leave everything as is, unlimited short-term rentals and lax enforcement, or make the changes in the ordinance that staff crafted after hours of public comment on this issue, setting a strict cap on the number of whole house STRs allowed, giving enforcement some teeth to take away the permits of bad hosts, and preventing new STRs going up near existing ones. The cap and the notion of sitting on a waiting list for an unpredictable amount of time will discourage people who don't live here or love this town from buying up properties with dollar signs in their eyes. We want our houses to be full of people who live here, while also recognizing that some people who live here are running a short-term rental so they can continue to live here. Crucially, if we find something that needs tweaking, the elected representatives of the people will be able to make those changes going through our usual public process rather than having to wait for an election cycle and paying to have something put on the ballot like we've had to do in this case. We've had a lot of public comment in the form of emails on this issue with a lot of very valid complaints about the current state of things in our city as far as STRs are concerned, echoing a lot of what we've heard in person at our committee meetings. We've also heard from a few people who were very concerned about the city's sales tax revenue a few months ago, who seem entirely unconcerned about the city's TOT revenue going forward. We've heard from people suggesting without evidence that this ordinance would expand the number of whole house STRs in our community. As someone who's worked this hard for this long to make something that is better and would improve the situation here, that is dispiriting. There's the usual cohort of naysayers who seem to have decided that misinformation is the best tool they have available, so they use it to try to scare people who haven't been engaged with the issue. I ask that anyone who hasn't done so to actually read the ordinance, and I'll remind everyone that letters to the editor in our local paper are not fact-checked before publication. Just because they're in print doesn't mean the people writing them have a monopoly on wisdom or aren't simply making everything up. Some of these people know better, and some of them don't. Rather than getting riled up, I encourage everyone, again, to read the actual ordinance rather than somebody's creative paraphrase. There are ideas that never would have occurred to me in this ordinance, and notions I had that didn't make the cut. That's because this isn't the wish list of one person or two people or 4 to 5 people, depending on the night. It's the result of a community process that took in multiple perspectives. On the ballot, it will read, shall the measure that replaces the existing residential short-term rental registration rules with a new permitting system and more detailed permit eligibility and operating rules be adopted, yes or no? I wish that included the word stricter in place of more detailed, because that's what it is. A choice between things as they are or real restrictions that'll make a meaningful difference. Mayor?
Thank you so much, Councilmember Klein. I want to begin, I'd like to add to that as the other committee member, just for some more background and context to my colleagues, and then I'm eager to hear from the two of you. I want to begin by acknowledging the long and extensive process that this has been. This is certainly the longest public process that I've participated in or witnessed in my 6 years on council. So I think that that is a worthy effort. So again, for nearly 3 years, we held workshops, community meetings, public discussions. We listened, we made revisions, reconsidered earlier decisions, and then tried to account for as many different experiences as possible. So I want to thank everybody here and everyone who stayed in the process, even when we didn't always agree. I also want to note that we've received a number of emails recently, including public comment today, asking us to go further, particularly by eliminating whole house rentals. I want to note that this is a real and strongly held position, and it definitely deserves consideration. And I also want to note that the volume of correspondence we received in the final days of a 3-year process should not be mistaken for the entire public record. Over the course of this process, we've heard from concerned people, of course, about housing being converted into investments, about outside ownership, and about the ongoing changing character of our neighborhoods. We've also heard from local residents like Shasta who rely on short-term rental income to be in their homes. One local woman that we talked to told us that sometimes she rents her whole home while staying nearby. That income helps her pay her mortgage. She's not a corporation. She's not a wealthy outside investor. She's a local person trying to make home ownership work. Unfortunately, the type of grant that you received, Jordan Fisher Smith, in the 1980s is no longer available for home ownership. So sometimes we have to get creative around these sorts of things. So her experience, like Shasta's experience and a handful of others, also belong in this conversation. They're not all present in this room today, but we have heard from them over the last 3 years. For me, this conversation has never been about, is Airbnb good or bad? Because the truth is, it's been both, right? Absolutely. On the good side, it provides meaningful income for some residents, for families. It supports tourism, which, like it or not, is an important part of our economy. And it allows for some people to maintain home ownership. There's also legitimate concerns about houses becoming investments rather than homes, right? About unchecked growth of whole home rentals and about what that could mean for housing supply in our neighborhoods over time. This is all legitimate. The challenge for me has never been about whether Airbnb is good or bad, but it's about how do we strike the balance between those things, because all of those things exist in our community. And if we're going back to the theme of healthy ecosystems, I think this ordinance does a dang good job at balancing those things. Is it perfect? No. I also want to remind folks that when, for folks that are seeing short-term rentals operating today, specifically whole house, the number you're seeing is actually significantly higher than this ordinance will allow, in part because a substantial number of them are operating currently without permits. We estimate about 20 whole house rentals are operating without permits. So again, that proposed cap of 2% on whole house and 1% on ADUs, that cap doesn't preserve the number that we're seeing today. So I think that combined with strong enforcement, which I will continue to advocate for, it will significantly reduce the number of rentals that we're seeing or experiencing. So again, after 3 years, I think this is a thoughtful and balanced and far better than what we have now. It does not give every faction everything it wants. A balanced policy rarely does, but it does respond to real housing concerns without treating every whole home rental as a speculative investor. And I think that's important. There are people with whole home rentals in this community that rely on that income. I'm eager to hear more from my colleagues. I also want to say, somebody brought up earlier, can we differentiate between those speculative investors and also people who live locally? And unfortunately, this is a path that we have explored with our attorney. And right now, there's not a legal way to differentiate that is not considered discriminatory in practice. So unfortunately, that's not a path for us. There is pending litigation happening right now. We are looking at the outcomes. This does allow us to give council the freedom to adjust in the future. For somebody who said earlier, does this take power away from the voters? Absolutely not. You vote for your council members. Make sure you're voting people in who are aligned with your values around housing and balancing all the needs of the community. And with that, I'm going to open up the table to my other colleagues.
Okay. May I ask questions?
Absolutely. Questions, comments, concerns?
Okay, I do have a few questions. So, as we heard from Kathy this evening, if a resident is experiencing a situation where they are experiencing noise and being disturbed, what does the enforcement look like, or what does the complaint process look like under the new ordinance? Is it filing a complaint, or is there a way to check on enforcement, or to start the conversation without filing a formal complaint?
We are having this conversation right now actively about how to treat these types of concerns and issues. Right now, we're directing everybody to report a concern. That's a button on our website. Every page that you click on in the city's website has this button at the bottom. It will always be there. It's permanent. Do you want to add to that?
And I would just add that we actually workshopped over all complaints and how they come through the city, and we will be meeting monthly to review all of the complaints that come through Report a Concern. Right now, they're coming in from various places. So I did have a conversation with a resident. They didn't know about that. I had to learn a little bit about it. we're updating the form, but that's part of the tracking process and the accountability is if we're getting consistent complaints, then we can move on to the next level of enforcement because we have that documentation, but it doesn't take a phone call. You don't have to call the police. You can just put it in. You can call us anytime, obviously, but that documents it, and then we have a record, and that starts the process for enforcement.
I'd also like to add that that doesn't look any different regardless of who your neighbor is, whether they are short-term renters or homeowners. If somebody's playing music loudly, if somebody's being loud at inappropriate times, if dogs are barking all hours of the night, like my back neighbors sometimes, that complaint, we rely on folks to let us know what's going on so that we can respond.
And there's always, sorry, Mayor, there's always the non-emergency number as well if you're needing some attention right away. Obviously, if there's an emergency 911, but there is the non-emergency police line if you need attention right away. But I think that report of concern sets up the documentation.
Another question, if this initiative makes it to the ballot in November, is it one vote or two votes? Do we have to vote to rescind the prior?
No.
I think that was a common phrase that was being used is repeal and replace. It's not to this one ballot item is replacing the existing ordinance.
So it's one vote?
It's one vote.
Okay.
One item.
One item. Okay, so I will make some comments. This is my second city council meeting. Thank you again for electing me to serve on the city council. So I'm new to this particular conversation in this format. And I have experience running a short-term rental. I currently am not running a short-term rental anywhere. And I have never ran one in Nevada County. I have had experience with short-term rentals in Southern California. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about my perspective as a short-term rental as a tool, because home ownership was something that felt out of reach for myself and my husband for a long time. We are artists, professionals and artists. We have sometimes referred to as a gig lifestyle. I have experience as a touring musician. My husband is a filmmaker and an editor, and what comes with a gig lifestyle is inconsistent income. You don't know how consistent it's going to be. You don't necessarily know if it's going to be a good month or a great month or a bad month. And so having the option to know that there's a safety net there has been a big value to my family. And another perspective on it that I'd like to share is that sometimes when you are, if you're moving or buying a new home or relocating and you own a property, you might not be in a position to hold two if you're trying to sell one and trying to move into one. And so, or if it's a bad time to sell and you don't want to sell at a loss. And so having the option to rent as a short-term rental, that can be very helpful during those times. And also in California, if you're weighing your options, it's not a good time to sell. I don't want to be forced to take a loss that would take a long time to recover from financially. Also, I'm not in a position to support a long-term tenant in that moment, then having options is helpful. So for folks like myself, living in a time where mortgages can be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, having some tools at your disposal can be a big help and can lead to achieving home ownership goals and mortgage affordability goals. So I just wanted to share that bit of perspective because that's very real to me. Coming up to speed and reading the the short-term rental ordinance as it's written. I see real progress. I recognize that we're moving from a time where we don't have a cap to having a cap. So that's progress. And from my perspective, progress is really important, and perfection is not what we're going for in this particular moment. It's progress. And having the opportunity to vote and pass a new ordinance with the amendment authority is also extremely important, because if this ordinance does not go to the ballot in November and we don't, as a community, have an opportunity to vote on it, it could be several years it could be 2 years before we could make any changes. So our hands would be tied as a council to make any adjustments and to listen to our community in terms of what's needed. So I am seeing progress in what's written here. I could advocate for stricter rules, but I am going to trust the process that occurred before I took my seat on this council, trust that the process that took place that I've heard about tonight, that I've read about. I attended one of those meetings myself. I'm going to trust that the community's voices were heard and that a balance was achieved through all the input. And so thank you for, I'm happy to be here and be part of this conversation now.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for your feedback, council member.
Okay, let me get this in close. Welcome, Michaela. As I said, deep into the pool, trial by fire. Welcome. I looked at this in a number of different ways. I did a deeper dive on this than I've done on a topic in a long time. It was quite interesting to look at it in a number of ways. I think I would start by saying that one of the places I looked was the National League of Cities, who sampled 60 different cities with short-term rental ordinances and the recommendations that they made. But they prefaced it by saying there is no topic that local government can deal with that will create less satisfaction among a broader range of constituents than short-term rentals. And I think that's true. It is extremely difficult. It is, so nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw Airbnbs coming. We're quite used to it now, but it was quite an amazingly disruptive activity when it took place in 2015. So one of the things I was really interested in, and I used to do this for a living, but I just am getting rusty, and I realized I had not done the legislative history on how did we get here. And it's one of the really critical things that we need in order to understand how we got here. So in 2015, it was interesting, the Nevada City hosts put together what was going to become a ballot initiative to regulate Airbnbs. This was on top of an ordinance that was passed sometime in the 90s that prevented anything less than 30-day rentals. So it needed to change in order for Airbnbs to be legalized at all. And in 2015, there were a number of people who were doing Airbnbs and wanted to legitimize it. So they came to the council in specifically September of 2015 and presented to the council. When the council is presented with an initiative, as we have been tonight, you have three choices, and Russ can check me on this, but I think I got it. One is you can send it for a study, send it back to staff and say, bring us back results, but that gives you only 30 days before you have to act on it. And then you can adopt it directly as a council, or you can put it on the ballot. The council in 2015, September of 2015, adopted it immediately as written, which gives it the same credence as if it were voted in by the constituents. So that's how we got there with this ordinance that we live with now, the directive that we live with now. In December of 2015, a counter ordinance was created, or counter initiative was created by neighbors in Nevada City that sought to overturn the initiative that had been approved by the council in September and was highly restrictive and amazingly contains all the same language that I received in all the letters that I got. We got to ban everything. We're threatening the neighborhoods. All of the stuff, a lot of it fear-based, a lot of it, I hear you on your concerns. Believe me, I'm not diminishing your concerns at all. But the same thing that I'm hearing now that we need to do. And so one of the things I note is that in Nevada City, we love our history and we keep repeating it. So much that we love it, we keep doing it over and over and over. So when it came back, and there it was, and it got voted on in the next general election, and Measure Y, which was the one that was put forward to overturn the host ordinance, failed 3-1. I failed 2-1. 33% for it, 66% against it. Really a strong voter statement about wanting to work with Airbnbs, all right? So one of the things that we've gotten a lot of feedback on is how we should change what we're putting forward tonight, that we should do the same things. We should ban whole house rentals. We should make it as difficult as possible for anybody to rent. In fact, we should take actions that would discourage anybody from ever wanting to do that. So we don't get a lot of metrics on this stuff, but for me, when I look at that and I think about it, and I saw that language failed 2-1 in 2017, I'm thinking it's going to do that again were we to use that same language. Maybe, maybe not, but that's the indicator I have. And given the way I've watched and participated in elections, I would say that it would probably pass closer to 80-20 this time than even though there are more people in it and it's a broader topic. But the reason that matters is because despite what some folks have stated in the newspaper and here tonight, this council never chose any of this. We had nothing to do with what's in place now, and nor would we, I believe, choose to do this by ballot initiative. There was another opinion piece in the letter in the Union this morning by someone that I seldom agree with, but he made the point that when you use a ballot initiative, you tie the hands of the council. If it is the voters' will, we cannot arbitrarily overturn that. So we're in a situation right now where the only way we can change what is in place is by a voters' initiative. And I don't know how many people read the ordinance, but it states in the ordinance that if it is passed, in the ordinance, I should say initiative, if it passed, it brings it back to the administrative level of the city to manage, which is where it should have been all the way along, so that we can live in the dynamic and the change and make the changes that they need to be changed and adapt as we go. We do not have that ability now because of the way it was written. And because of that, there hasn't been enough enforcement. We haven't collected the data and metrics to tell us what's really going on. Almost everything we hear is anecdotal. In the deep dive that I did do, I found all kinds of competing studies. Make no mistake, Airbnb puts a lot of money in creating studies that says what they want. A lot of other people create opposing studies. It's really hard. Does it decrease rents? Does it make housing available? You can find a position in legitimate studies either side. Hard to tell. But what I do believe is that what we have written after my review and looking at it is state of the art in terms of what is being recommended in the world today for best practices. And I think that's where we need to be, because we do recognize that we're trying to achieve a balance. This does reduce the number of units. It clearly reduces the number of units, which is important. And it also, if passes, allows us to revisit it The software, that, if you understand that we're using, gives us the ability to collect data, to understand exactly what's happening so we can make the best decisions driven by data. We have not had that. So we all, and I think of the beautiful articulation of the ecosystem that our mayor presented earlier today, and how this all fits together in there. And what that really means is, with so many different positions in a community, in that ecosystem, we all have a responsibility to figure out how to make this work. That's the other thing that the National League of Cities said. In order to make a short-term rental ordinance work, everybody's got to collaborate, everybody's got to give and take. And that's what it's going to take, and that's what a community does. And the cool thing about being in Nevada City is we've demonstrated that we have the capacity to do that. But that means that if it's not working for you in your neighborhood, you should let us know. We can try and fix that. We can work on that. But if you don't want to let us know, it's hard for us to do that. I frequently say that the five of us, it's impossible for us to know all your needs, wants, and desires unless you tell us. So we all have to take responsibility. If we're hosts, we have to make sure that we follow the rules. We have to make sure people are aware of them. If it's not working as our neighborhood, there's a problem, let's pin it down and get it fixed. I'm sympathetic to concentrations of houses. And I guess I want to say one more thing about neighborhoods. The mayor who declared the year of the neighborhood, I think we do protect our neighborhoods really well. This is an issue. We need to look at it, we need to understand it, and we need to adjust it. If a campaign is launched to defeat this initiative, which is your right to do, it will be 2 years, as stated, before we can bring it back, because the only way we can change it is by ballot initiative. We did not create that situation. It is a legal situation, and we need to address that. And I want to close by thanking my colleagues for the enormous amount of work they have done on this issue. I want to give them certificates of merit and gold stars. But I often think about the work that we do and why we do this and what it's like. And I think of a guy that I once knew, old hippie guy named Kit Dove, good hippie name. And he got himself elected to an advisory committee for a regional area. And he was there for 6 months and he quit. And I'm like, Kit, what happened? He said, well, you know, what I discovered is it's so much easier to throw bricks than it is to catch them. So I also want to award them some really big catcher's mitts because this has not been easy. And I want to say that the letters that we have received, I'm not sure that I've ever received more letters. And I would also say, if you really want us to read your letters, write your own. Don't just sign what somebody gave you. That takes up about 50–60% of the letters we received. We received some really brilliant, articulate letters. Love to read those. If you're mean to me and you say bad things to me, I won't read your letters anymore. So we got bombed on this. But we did listen, we are listening, and this was an extraordinary effort of community engagement. And I believe that these folks did a good job being heard. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for that thorough history lesson and accolades. I was born catching bricks, very adept at it. Before we move on, I'm going to refer to our City Attorney, Russell.
It's lit. Does that mean it's on?
It does.
Should you proceed to pass this resolution, there's an associated action follow-up that you'll need to take, and that's regarding specifically authorizing member or members of the council to write arguments in favor and your rebuttal arguments. So I just wanted to have that little detail dealt with afterwards, since we're, before we move on.
Can I, do you mind if I include that in the recommended action as I read them and just by name those council members in that action? Can I do it all? Can we do it all in one fell swoop?
I'd prefer not.
Okay, well, let's do it one by one.
And if I have one final question for
No, no, you're done, sir.
I don't get 3
I'm
minutes.
just kidding.
Lori got 3 minutes.
You've got 3 minutes, sir.
CEQA. Does this cover, this specifically addresses CEQA, and there were concerns raised or whether we needed to do more on CEQA or not. Does this adequately cover us under CEQA?
Well, I believe so. The exemption is one that is based on the fact that there's no change in your existing facilities. You're using the bedrooms the way they were designed to be built. You're using the homes the way they were designed to be built. Parking doesn't change. This doesn't authorize any development or authorize a change in the environment. So that's the basis behind the exemption.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Important question. So we're gonna look at 4 different actions here. Is that correct? I've got 4.
I believe you've got one resolution in front of you.
So the recommended actions are to adopt the resolution, authorize members of the city council to file an argument and rebuttal, authorize the city manager designee to take all appropriate actions, and to find the above actions be exempt. In the past, I have taken all 4 of those at the same time as one recommended action, but if you believe they need 4 votes, we can do that.
Oh, no, I just meant that
I will name
naming.
them individually.
Yeah, the
Excellent.
authorized individuals that would author the arguments and rebuttals. I just didn't feel that fit very well in with the rest of the
So I'll separate that one.
presentation.
Excellent. So first, I'm looking for a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, California, calling for a special municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, submitting to the electorate at the election a ballot measure relating to short-term rentals, requesting that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Nevada consolidate the special municipal election with other elections to be held on November 3rd, 2026, and take certain related actions, which are authorize the city manager or designee to take all appropriate and necessary actions to carry out the purpose and intent of the resolution, and finding the above actions to be exempt from further environmental review under CEQA. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. I have a motion from Councilmember Klein and a second from Vice Mayor Peterson. Roll call, please, Amber.
Councilmember Sortland?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez?
Yes. Excellent. Thank you all. And separately, I am looking for a motion to authorize both Councilmember Klein and myself, as the members who worked on this for the last 3 years, to file an argument and rebuttal in support of the ballot measure on behalf of the council.
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sortland?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez?
Yes. Thank you all so much. Stay tuned. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, council members. We're going to take a 5-minute recess and come right back.
Thank you. Well done.
It looks like we cleared the room. All right, final item number 5. Nope, just kidding. Number 6. Consideration of resolution initiating proceedings to increase the city's water and wastewater services charges and adopting procedures relating to protests against the proposed rate increases, and receive information and provide direction to staff regarding the potential establishment of low-income utility rate assistance program. Take it away, city manager.
Great, thank you very much. First, I would just like to thank the team. We are really approaching this as a team effort. So everything from finance to engineering, public works, our water and wastewater, operations director, as well as even the OES team is involved because of their history with community outreach. And then we also have, and a huge thanks to Mark Mandel, who's associated with Jones and Mayer, for helping with advice and counsel as we move through the process. So I wanted to thank him for that. Quick timeline, the city engaged with Rural Community Assistance Corporation to start reviewing our rates in October of 2023. The initial presentation of rates to council was in January 14th of 2026. Those proposed very large increases at the front end, particularly for water. Council directed staff to work with the consultants and come back with different proposals and rates. So at the February 11th meeting, alternative options were presented and council leaned towards 25% increases across the board for 5 years for water and 12% for wastewater. And that allowed the consultants to go back and do the studies that they needed to do and flesh out the information and get those studies to us. So we received the studies between, it actually just recently in June, and I want to preface the information you're going to see tonight. The rates that you're seeing will be the maximum rates that can be charged. And we do that so that we have that understanding, and then we can go through, and if we gain revenue somewhere from other sources, we would be able to look at that and lower rates eventually, but it's the maximum amount that can be charged. I also want to note that both studies assume no growth. That's not necessarily typical of water and wastewater studies, but it is a fact here in the city that we really just aren't adding a lot of new housing units, so we don't have those new connections, revenues. No, doesn't seem to be, and it does, and we're not really bringing on new ratepayers. So as costs go up, then that has to be divided among the same ratepayers that are here, and then we're not flush with other revenue that comes in. So we're here today to initiate the process, and then we will go through a series. A timeline of outreach and information if you authorize us moving forward, where it's a very technical process with 218, and then we would get to a public hearing on October 14th. I'll go over the timeline a little bit more in a second. If adopted, the rates would begin on January 1st, and you would not be billed until March of 2027. And that first year's rates would stick for 18 months as we get back on cycle to rate increases on July 1st. So with that, I will move over to water. For our infrastructure, we have, that is your water plant, a picture of your water plant. We have 21 miles of distribution pipeline. 1/3 of active infrastructure system is more than 100 years old. So that's yes. And we have 1,350 metered customer utility connections, and our water plant maintains 3 above ground storage units. Rates have not been assessed or changed since July of 2013. So in July of 2013, the council adopted a 5-year rate plan, and that rate plan is the last year of that. The last increase that customers saw was in July of 2017 for a total of $24 a month. It was a 50-cent increase from the year before. It was adopted as a monthly fee, but we bill bi-monthly, so that's some of the confusion that we'll have as we communicate to people, is that they have a bi-monthly bill, but a lot of the information presented in the past has been monthly.
Got $1 on their bill.
So that's $24 per month or $48 bi-monthly is the current charge. And then we have usage for $2.39 for the first 8,000 gallons and $3.10 if you use more than 8,000 gallons. I think it's really important to note that 51% of our ratepayers pay no usage. They're paying just the flat fee, so that means they're using under 1,000 gallons.
And what was the percentage on that?
51%.
Thank you.
So I think that'll be important as you move over to rates. So we did accept, staff agrees with the RCAC study and move forward with the initiation on the council's information that they received in February with the 25% across the board. What that includes is a recalibration to match the American Water Works Association meter ratios, and that's in the study. If you want to read more about that, there's lots of great information. They did recommend reducing and eliminated the tiered system for usage. So there's a one flat rate for usage. It is also important to note the first 2 years still remain negative in the 25% across the board, which you did hear about in February. So the typical family, this is again with some usage, would pay about $46 a month for water, and that's up from $36 a month. Or if you're looking at bi-monthly, $93 for 2 months, up from $72. Again, 51%.
First year.
First year, yes. Clarity first year. Again, 51% of of our connections pay no usage, so they'd be looking at the flat rates and not the average there at the bottom of the screen. Moving on to wastewater, we have 27 miles of collection of pipeline. Some active pipelines date back to 1850s. I can tell you our Public Works Director works through those on the regular. The picture here is of a more recent addition, which when they were putting in wastewater for Cashin's Field. We have 1,571 customers. Rates have not been assessed for updates since December of 2018. The last increase that ratepayers saw was in January of 2023. Currently, the rate is $58 monthly, $116 bi-monthly, and then flow charges, we allow for 4,000 gallons free, and flow charges are $10 per 1,000 gallons. City staff analyzed the study that RCAC did, and although we agree with a lot of the information in terms of the revenue required to operate the system, it was such a rapid increase to fully fund with the asset replacement and the CIP. We don't agree that that is something that the community can absorb. And they really propose a very significant restructure of rates, which at this time, without more data, we feel like that's not the direction to go. And so we're recommending that we proportionally increase on the current structure that we have to gain the funding that we need for operations, maintenance, our debt coverage, as well as some limited CIP. And so that's what you'll see in this slide. It is a little bit of a different approach where there is a larger increase in the beginning, quite a bit large increase, and then it flattens out to be more of a inflation level percentage, but 3 and 5%. And it does not really propose a much higher rate than the RCAC did for the initial year. So 44% of ratepayers pay no usage on sewer, so you're looking at the fixed rate being $166 for 2 months. And again, the rates would be implemented January 1st of this year and go for 18 months before we would do another increase, and then it would increase 3%. Moving on to our options for further research, one of the asks of you in February was to look at some low-income assistance programs for those who will be most affected by these rates. So there's a couple of things. If we just did a full discount for low income, it's very administratively burdensome in certain ways, and we can't use the water fund to pay for that. But more importantly, a majority of our utilities are owner billed. So then it's really hard to, like, okay, are their tenants low income? Is it passed through the rent? How are we accounting for low income? So there's a couple of different things that I believe that we could look into over the next 55, 60 days and bring back to you in the public hearings. We could look at monthly utility billing. We know that would have a cost with it, but we can get more information on what that would look like, because I think that's helpful in terms of approaching a month versus bi-monthly. We could look at payment flexibility, expanded payment plans in case there was a life issue that happens. How do we work through that? Enhanced leak forgiveness. We have a one-time in your lifetime leak forgiveness. So there's sometimes things happen. Can we look at that? And then limited term utility hardship assistance fund. I want to be clear, there's no funding for that right now, and we did not budget funding for that. But if the council wished for us to pursue funding or set aside funding in the next budget cycle, that's something that we could look at. What I think is low-hanging fruit is regional coordination. Been talking to PG&E as well as our waste management haulers to come in and provide presentations and information and really ramp up getting people enrolled into programs that are already in existence. So we've had some success moving the dial on waste management in terms of education, information, and I'd like to see those enrollment numbers going up by working with some, even 211 or a nonprofit, or accepting the paperwork here, and then getting it over to our waste management partners. And then just a quick review of the process. Rate analysis and adoption cannot exceed a 5-year period, so we cannot adopt rates for more than that. They must not exceed the actual cost of providing the services. We are not in danger of doing that. We'll be short for the first 2 years on a couple of things. Revenue generated from the fee must not be used for any other purpose other than for which the fees are imposed. And our anticipated timeline, we're here today talking about it. We'll be doing, if approved, to move forward. The mailing would go out for the 218 notice on August 10th. We already have staff working on that because we'll have to do that eventually. And then 2 meetings right now scheduled for 8/20 and 9/14. So community members can come learn more and understand their water systems and wastewater systems. We are including an optional written objections, which would be due to City Hall on October 1st. That's so that anyone that feels that there is a legal issue why the rates can't be implemented as we're promoting has an opportunity to provide a written objection, and that is different than the protest. So if you would like to protest, there's a process for that, and you're adopting those rules, or you would be adopting those rules tonight that govern the protest counting and kind of the rules around that, because that 218 process isn't very clear at the state level, so we want that to be clear for everyone so they know how to participate. And then finally, recommended action to adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, because I want to put city in there as many times as possible in one sentence, initiating the proceedings to increase the city's water and wastewater service charges, adopting procedures related to protests against the proposed rates, direct the city manager or designee to agendize and review impacts of water and wastewater rates, increases on ratepayers and revenue to cost ratios to the enterprise fund, in the first quarter of 2029. This is just a specific action to ensure that we're looking at those rates, and you've directed the city manager's office to bring that back very purposefully to review how it's going, and then receiving the information for low income and providing any direction that you would like to direct. And that concludes my presentation.
Yes, very well.
And you have 1 minute left before you would need, I believe you would need to vote on extending the meeting unless.
It was 9:30.
Is it 9:30? Okay, great. Then you have 31 minutes left.
Thank you for that. We do have a full house. I hope you've got your comment cards. Hopefully we can get through it. Thank you for that, Carrie. All right. Any public comment in the room?
Scott? You're on the hook.
Hi, my name's Scott Whalen. I'm not a constituent, sorry. I was here when the professionals, the consultants came and gave you guys the presentation, and my observations were that I think it would be beneficial for us to empower the users. And so if there's a way for us to increase the usage rate, but I'm hearing 50%, so maybe we're there. I guess the only thing that I was going to say is, if you guys didn't notice, there was a lot of pushback when NID was about to vote. Yeah. There were real estate professionals that were handing out flyers. I mean, it was heavy. So you're probably prepared for that. I guess the only thing I could say is be prepared, but it seems to me like this is not unique. Like every water district is dealing with this. East Bay Mud has 150-year-old pipes. So, I mean, I guess if everybody understands that this is happening to everybody, we might not have the protest. Anyways, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Okay.
And Christine, nothing to say?
Leave her alone. All right, back to the table. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Was the last council to increase rates also the one that adopted the Airbnb ordinance?
I think so. I think so.
We bring them up here. We have the 5 of them in front of us.
Public flogging, yeah.
Shall we name them?
I can name one of them.
I can name 5.
Yeah, if I might.
Yes, you might.
I was laughing. I think we need to do historical preservation of our water and sewer lines. No, this is absolutely necessary. I appreciate it. I think the really critical understanding here for anybody that's watching this is what we're proposing is the maximum we could charge. It is not our plan. We do not know if we need to do that at this point. We suffer sometimes from a lack of data and information. Our consultants did the best they could with what they had. But, we haven't as a city sometimes had the resources or taken the time to really gather data and information that helps guide our decisions. So the consultant was working from a wide range that may not have been entirely applicable to who we are. So the purpose is we have to do this because, one, we're eating into the general fund, and it's actually illegal to fund a enterprise fund by contributions from the general fund. And I don't know how we're going to fix that because that should technically be a loan and not a contribution. But I'm not going to go there. But we're not paying for it, and it's really critical we need to do that. And we also have in the water system a $20,000 reserve. I think maybe we could replace a valve with that, maybe. I don't know, Brian, that's, a small valve, okay. So we really need to get on top of this. I mean, again, this is ecosystem because this is public health and safety. This is water, the force of life, and we need to take it on. We need to fix it. We've said this before as a council, and I admire us a lot for this. We are willing to take on these issues we did not create because we need to resolve them so that we have a viable future. So we need to do this, but we need to examine it as we go. First couple of years, going to be big, and then we evaluate as we go. Are we building the reserves we need? Have we reduced the draw in the general fund? But we can't know that from where we sit now. It's all projections. So we have set it up so we can go where we need to go in order to accomplish those critical things so that we can support our water system. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Council members?
Echoing a lot of what Gary said, we have to do this now because they didn't do it then. And we don't want to be the ones cursing future councils with an unsustainable system.
Yeah, good point. 5 years from now, somebody say, pull that council up here.
Yeah. I know that I appreciate the thought towards our struggling neighbors.
Yeah.
That whole slide for that, and my household is one of them that will have to take a hard look at the budget. And I know I'm not alone in that by any means. And it's not a case of us deciding to raise the rates or to not raise the rates and just keep it going. That's not an option. It's a case of, do we want water or not? And we'd like water. Michaela.
A healthy water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure is certainly part of a healthy ecosystem. Supporting a healthy ecosystem is what we're here to do. We have to be responsible stewards of Nevada City's future, solve this problem for our residents. Some of our water mains are over a century old, so we have to do something about it. Some of our streets don't have new fire hydrants. They need to be replaced. And so having funds to do that is critical, especially in the fire-prone foothills that we live in. A yes vote tonight isn't the final vote to raise rates, simply launching the legal process, Prop 218, the state law. So I encourage our residents and neighbors to take part in that process and let us know how we can support you in that process so we can make sure that all voices are heard, and keep an eye out for your neighbors. We need to make sure that when we do have our funds set aside for emergency funds and to support vulnerable neighbors and community members, that they're aware that they have that fund and access to that fund. So I know throughout my time talking to neighbors, going door to door and spending time in conversation, it became very apparent to me that a lot of folks aren't aware of the benefits and services they could be receiving. So we could be saving Nevada City residents a lot of money if we really make sure that they're informed. So that will be part of my focus during this process, is how do we put all the information together in a spot, in a place where people can access it. And so it's not a complicated, overwhelming process to sign up for those services and make sure that they're utilized to their full extent.
Excellent, thank you. I think for me, the lesson is deferring infrastructure costs does not make them disappear, unfortunately. So here we are, as everyone said. I think, quick question, because I'm still learning about the 218 process. So can council pause or reduce later scheduled increases without initiating a new 218 process?
You can always go down, but you can't go up.
Excellent, thank you. I appreciate the efforts for monthly billing, options for monthly billing and payment plans. It certainly makes bills easier to manage. However, it doesn't make water cost less. So I would really be interested, as you asked, if council wanted to advise to look into some funding options for ratepayers. That would be, I think that's really, really important. I mean, we know that, Councilmember Klein has said it, this will impact people. It will impact families, particularly ones who are on fixed or low income. And I really want us to have some tangible options beyond the one-time forgiveness for those folks. This is, as a small town with not a lot of funds, sometimes it feels like affordability is competing with infrastructure, and I don't want that to be true. I want us to do what we can to address affordability as a primary conversation. Yep, that's what I've got. I am happy to support initiating the public process tonight. I'm looking for a motion. Do you feel like you have what you need?
Yes.
Great. I'm looking for a three-part motion. Adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, California, initiating proceedings to increase the city's water and wastewater service charges and adopting procedures relating to protests against the proposed rate increase, and direct the city manager designee to agendize and review impacts of water and wastewater rate increases on ratepayers and revenue to cost ratios in the enterprise fund in the first quarter of 2029, and receive information and provide direction to staff regarding the potential establishment of low-income utility rate assistance program, including the potential adoption of authorizing ordinance.
So move.
Second?
Great. I've got a motion by Councilmember Sortland and a second by Councilmember Klein. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Sortland?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I take public comment? Yes, I did. Sorry.
Yeah, you did. Scott
Oh,
spoke.
right, all the public comment. Scott crushed it. Thank you.
They're clamoring,
Apologies.
they're clamoring.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fernandez?
Yes. Excellent. All right, look at that. Look what we did, folks. Brittany, thank you so much.
Easiest presentation ever.
You were fantastic.
I was here for technical support.
That's right, that's right. Okay, so we're looking for reports and future agenda items. Council members, what have you got?
Continued the planning with the ERC Executive Board for the Economic Summit happening at the end of October. I encourage anyone interested in economic development in Western Nevada County to come and attend that. A great economist that I've heard before, Gerbach Sahota, I hope I got that name mostly right, Gerbach Sahota, brilliant woman, is going to be the keynote speaker. You've heard of her and you're impressed.
She's really good.
Yeah, she's outstanding, and she's going to be there. Hopefully talking about, there's the national economic scene and the state, but hopefully we'll also get some laser focus on what we're all dealing with and how we can sort of ride the waves more effectively. Been doing that. Summer nights has been beautiful, and really thankful last night wasn't quite as hot as the week before. And I've heard great things from some of the merchants about how that's been going. That's what I got.
Thank you, thank you.
Do you have anything? Go ahead.
As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, I am very excited to join my committees, and I'm thrilled about my appointments, my committee appointments, because they're right up my alley in terms of advocating for a zero waste Nevada City. That's my long-term goal, but let's start now. I have a community event that I'm organizing called the Repair Cafe Nevada County. This Saturday is our third event, so everyone's welcome to join. We would love to see you all there.
Where?
This particular event is in Grass Valley at the Banner Grange, just beyond the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And it's actually a quick drive, and then we got a good parking lot there, so you can bring in your big items, because the rule is if you can carry it in, we will try to fix it for you. We have a wonderful group of community volunteers that are extremely competent, and at our last event, we successfully fixed 72 items that the public brought in. So it was a huge success, up from fixing 53 the time before. So our numbers are growing and our support is growing. So everyone is welcome and encouraged to come, and we have folks there that can sharpen tools and knives. So that's a huge asset. Please come. We also have a bicycle repair person. So it's biking season. Bring your bike.
Could you sharpen like hair cutting scissors?
I think so.
Cut your own hair?
I would also.
Christine, 5 minutes.
I also want to mention a date, September 12th, I am organizing a zero waste event. So you're going to have to stay tuned for some more details on that, but I'm announcing the date, September 12th. Save it, save the date.
Excellent.
I'll go ahead if that's all right.
Yes, please do.
And I want to say that Christine and I attended the first Repair Cafe. What a hoot. The energy level is so high, and it's just so much fun. And it's just, if nothing else, just go check it out. It's wonderful. It's just a lot of fun. So I was at Pioneer Energy today for too long, sorting things out, looking at economic development incentives. Pioneer Energy is expected to double in size in the next year, which ultimately should result in better rates for everyone. CCAs thrive when they grow. It's quite an interesting organization, and I'm sitting there with people from, supervisors from Placer and El Dorado County, council members from Colfax and Rockland and Placerville, and it's doing great work. Energy keeps flowing. It's less than PG&E, so we're good. Attended yesterday the Sustainability Project board meeting with our city manager, who gave an excellent report on the things that we're undertaking in the city aligned with sustainability. And she just jumped right in there, and it was great. And this organization, I say it's still trying to figure out what it wants to be, but it's moving there. It's a lot of information exchange on what people are doing, learning a lot about what the resource districts are doing and where ag is, and you talk about the ecosystem and how does ag play into fire because they have water on site. There's a lot of really interesting things, but it really is a systems engagement piece on sustainability in Western Nevada County, and it's figuring itself out. So it's kind of interesting. I would call it emergent order and leave it at that. So a couple cool things. Summer nights, a lot of fun. Having a good time there. So lovely evening last night. Done.
Yay. All right. Thanks, everybody. This will be the last time we do this way. At the beginning of every month, we'll do a report back on committees specifically. We're still trying to suss out what that means for other things like events, and if we'll keep those at the end or maybe join them at the beginning. I do think that there's benefit of doing things at the beginning. There's more people present, particularly if we're talking about things coming up or things we want people to attend. So stay tuned for that. I attended with our city manager the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and wanted to share a couple of things from that meeting. There were a couple of members, this was not an agendized item, but it was talked about in the space. A couple of local businesses have been cited with sandwich board violation tickets. And so it looks like that could potentially be coming back into our sphere soon. Look out for that. And then also, they're super excited about the shift in mural costs, that we lowered those fees, and had some good feedback about the concern form on our website. And then also the sort of big piece is that our chamber will be rotating out 3 members at the end of the year. 3 members will not be renewing their membership on the board. And there is a recruitment committee working actively to recruit those new board members. And for reference, those board members, that's okay to say, right? Yeah. It's all public knowledge. Wendy from Fur Traders, the vice chair of the board, Megan, whose last name I can't think of right now, Loswick, thank you. And then also Leah Davis. So those 3 board members are terming out and not rejoining. We'll likely have 3 new board members on the Chamber of Commerce. A note about our strategic plan. We originally had a strategic plan planned for August 8th. We're going to hold off on that just because largely, we don't want to fatigue the community. We've got some housing element workshops, we've got some water rate workshops, and we're wondering if a strategic plan might better align with a new budget. So we're looking at after the first of the year and taking this sort of half a year time to assess and gear up for that longer, potentially 5-year strategic plan. Speaking of housing element community workshop, there is that and an online survey. There are 2 workshops, July 30th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Please come if you care about housing in this community. And if you're unable to attend in person, you can complete the housing needs survey, which you can find on our website. There will also be a joint session of the City Council and the Planning Commission on August 12th. So it's an hour before our scheduled meeting. Our scheduled meeting is at 6:30. We'll begin that meeting at 5:30. Please join us for that. And then I'm really honored to be participating with the Nevada County Arts and Culture on their executive director interview panel. Happy to represent the city on that as they get new leadership over there. And then just happy to be reunited with our regional partners at the Mayors and Managers Breakfast. It was nice to hear from Grass Valley, sort of the successes and opportunities to grow around the High Sierra Music Festival, how that went well, and things that they'd like to do differently next year. And then also just such a pleasure to be connected with our Truckee friends. That's all I've got. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Great.
Aye.
Well done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.